thought it was interesting what you said about like catching up. And I think we can feel this like pressure that we have to stay on like each week. And this week I can't move on to next week until this whole week is finished. And I think that is not the case. I think all of us are some weeks in this subject and some weeks in that subject, right? And most of it, I'm in week 2 of term 2 for most things, but there's some things where I'm on week 10 still of term 1 and this kid's on week 11 of whatever, that is completely normal. And that's great. Just keep on keeping on. That's what I keep saying. Like, even if we're on week 10 or whatever, I'm just going to keep on what we're doing here. That's homeschooling, right? Like you said, like sickness, special events, like that's life. And because we have all those things that we're dealing with all the time, it can interrupt our school day, but it also is preparing our children for the real world in real life, right? Where these things do come up and you do have to negotiate and you do have grandma stop by for an unannounced visit and the whole day you didn't do anything, right? Those things happen, but you're also teaching them the importance of relationships and being with people and being flexible, which I think is really key. And we don't necessarily always value those lessons as much as we do. Like, did we get through 4 chapters in that book this week? Because it said that we were supposed to get through 4 chapters, right? That doesn't necessarily always need to be our priority. Our priority might be on that relationship or taking care of that sick person in our family. And those kind of lessons in life are super important too. We had a year where we moved. Well, I live in South Carolina right now. So we moved to Colorado and back in a 9-month time period. So during the school year, we moved across the country and then across the country. And, I bet you can guess who was packing up both houses and unpacking both houses, right? And if you've ever moved, it is super, super stressful trying to find doctors and a new church. And when we moved back to South Carolina, we didn't move back to the city. We were in South Carolina before. So it was a whole new brand new place all over again, right? And it's so stressful to, find a homeschool community and kind of put your roots down in that place. And so we moved in that 9-month time period, but there's the whole month of moving to the one place and getting situated and unpacking, and then the whole month of packing to go back, and then the month of packing. And really, like, honestly, that year, I'm like, I don't even know what we did for school. Like, I hope my kids learn something because it was just nuts and we couldn't get access to the books. And I just was like, okay, we're just going to try to do some reading and some math and a few extra things. And please, Jesus, can we all be okay? So that year, my oldest was in 7th grade, and then her sister was in 5th grade. And my oldest is now a freshman in college. And the one that was in 5th grade, is now a junior and taking college classes and doing amazingly. So that one year where it was just like, oh my word, what are we doing with our lives, people? They seem to be okay, right? But in the midst of it, it creates so much angst and stress, as it should. We need to be doing our diligence for our kids. But all that to say, we do have seasons in our lives like that. And I do think that we need to give ourselves a lot of grace when we're going through trials and big seasons where things are just all kind of getting messed up, to just give ourselves and our kids, because it's all transition and things for them too, grace, and just keep on, like I said, we're going to keep doing what we can today. We're going to focus on what we need to get done today and leave things kind of be. I don't think it's that important to leave off whether you want to end in June is up to you. And I do this at the end of the term too. Like, I might look at it and go, well, we have 3 chapters left in this natural history book or whatever. Do I really want to keep reading these 3 chapters next term or keep us behind? Or do I want to just call it a day and be like, yeah, we wrote a lot of stories in that book. It was great. Now we're moving on to the next one. Kind of like when you sit down for Thanksgiving dinner, right? We provide this feast for our children. And so when you sit down for the feast at Thanksgiving and you have leftovers, what do you do with the leftovers? You're like, okay, no one is leaving this table until all of this food is eaten. So everybody open up, and I'm going to shove these mashed potatoes down your throat. Like, nobody likes that, right? But we feel the need for our kids. Oh my goodness, we have 7 chapters left in this history book. So you're going to sit down and we're not getting up until we've read all 7 chapters in this book, because we're supposed to be done this book this week, and next week is a new term. And so we're going to finish. That's not enjoyable for anybody, right? Your kids aren't going to remember any of those 7 chapters, and they're probably really not like history after that. So we don't want to force feed the leftovers, right? So what do? Well, on Thanksgiving, sometimes you might wrap up the leftovers and you put them in the fridge and you go, you know what? That pumpkin pie was amazing. I'm going to keep that pumpkin pie so I can eat some of that tomorrow. And so there might be like the history, right? That you have a couple chapters left and you're like, you know what? We're really loving this. And this is so important. And I don't want to have this kind of gap where we just skip these 7 chapters. So, we're going to kind of add them in our exam week or on the weekend. We'll just kind of add them here and there because they're delicious. Or you might be like, you know what? That stuffing was nasty. And so I am not saving those leftovers. They're going in the trash. And so there might be subjects where you're like, yeah, we're done. Woo, okay. We didn't finish the last 3 lessons in that book. I'm okay with that. We're moving on. So again, you make those kind of decisions and don't let the calendar or lesson plans dictate what your family needs to get done. And it really just depends on subjects. If you're going to kind of skip a few things like math, for instance, is kind of a bad subject to just go, oh, we're supposed to be on lesson 40, but we're only on lesson 25. So we're just going to skip 15 lessons ahead, right? Like that's not going to work because that's like a skill-based subject. Chemistry, for example, would be something that's similar. But if it's, like again, a geography book or something like that, if you didn't read about the Pacific states and you skip ahead, like it's not going to be the end of the world. Your children will learn that there are states called California and Hawaii and Alaska at some point, right? Or you could add them in as you please. That's your choice. So I really recommend, if you're kind of feeling that pressure of, I got to do everything in this week and we cannot move on to the next week till we finish this week, to look, I have a video, if you haven't watched it, called Planning Your Week, and it's in the resources. But in there, I show you how every week I just sit down at the beginning of the week and say, okay, this is where we left off in this subject. This is what I'm going to plan for this subject. If you use one of those electronic services like Asana or Trello, you can just move tasks over to the next week, which is super awesome. But in that video, I show you how, for my little kids, I just write something in a notebook. So if we didn't do it, I just cross it out and write it down on the next week. Google Docs, same kind of thing. Really easy to kind of customize that.